Welcome everyone to today's video. In today's video we will be learning object-oriented programming in Java. So we will go through all the basics, what classes are, what objects are, and this is going to be a series of videos, and we will learn inheritance, polymorphism, interfaces further down the line, and in today's video we will just look at the basics. So let's just get started. So first of all, let's just understand what an object is. To understand object oriented programming, you need to know what an object is. So object is basically what the name suggests. Object is anything that you see in the physical world. For example, a book is an object, a pen is an object, your phone is an object, and similarly things that you don't see. So for example, a number, a variable that let's say stores a number, that is an object as well. So how do we define an integer in Java? We just say int a is equal to 5. Sorry, int a is equal to 5. So in a is a variable that holds the value 5, and a is of type int. So what does that mean is that a is a variable that can hold only integers. So a is an object that has the attribute of saving an integer value inside of it, right? So similarly, let's say a book has certain attributes, a pen has certain attributes. Similarly, a variable has certain attributes. So an object will have some attributes, and you can use that object to get some things done for you. So a student, a cow, a car, a dog, a cat, these things can all be considered objects in programming. So there is another way actually to define integers in Java. I don't know whether you knew this, but it is like this. It's something like this. Integer a is equal to new integer, and you can just type in a parenthesis and you can pass in the value. For example, 5, and or let's say 14, and you can just do a print line and you can print the value of a. And if I save this and if I run this, you can see the number 14 gets printed on the console. So what are we saying here? Integer a, that basically means that a is an object of the class integer. Let me just elaborate. Okay, so integer is a class that defines the attributes of a. If you hold control and hover over integer and go to open integration, you will see that there is a class named integer. Here it is, named integer, and this class basically has some a bunch of codes, and this basically just defines what an integer is, what attributes an integer should have. So this integer class is basically a blueprint for an integer variable, right? So a is an object of the class integer. That means the attributes of a are defined or are documented in the class integer. What we can do, so what we can do is we can create a class and an object on the basis of this idea. So let's just go here and create a class. We'll call this student. And what attributes should a student have? Let's just say he has his name. First of all, every human being has his name, and he has an age. Let's int age, and also he has an institute. String institute. So we have created a class called student that has a name variable, an age variable, and an institute variable. So just like this integer, we can create the object of student. We should be able to create object of any class. So integer is a class. We have created an object of this class integer, which is called a. Similarly, we can create an object of any class. So for example, we have this class called student, and we can create an object of this class by just simply saying student let's just call it student1 is equal to new student, just like that. And we will have access to its attributes. For example, if we do a sysout student1 dot name, and we can print the name of the student because we have access to that, right? Now if we print this, we will get the value null because the name is not defined. Oh, alright, null. So the value of name is null, but we can change that. We can just simply say, let's say I'm gonna put in my name. Let's say so the student is the student has a name. The student, let's say, has an age 19 and has an institute which is word, and let's just say another string department. Let's just so we can print the name of the student. Now we just save and run. It says auritro. We can print the age, we can run again 19. We can print the institute of the student, institute rather, and we can run this, wait, and we can also print out the department, chemical engineering. What if we want to create another object? For example, we have created an integer a. We can create another integer, right? B is equal to new integer, and it will have the value 8. So a and b are two different variables which have two different values. But if we want to create another student, let's say student2 is equal to new student. If we want to create sorry, not 5. If we want to create a new student, and let's just say student2 dot department, and it will say che again student2 dot name, and if we save and run, it will print auritro again. What happens here is that we are saying we're setting these values to be true for every single object that we create, but that should not be the case. Student 1 and student 2 should be two different people. Similarly, just like a and b are two different integers, they have two different values. Student 1 and student 2 should be two different people, and they should have different ages, different names, different institute, different departments, right? So that is where constructors come in. Now what is exactly a constructor? So let me start with the definition of constructor. So constructor is a method that doesn't have any type and is called whenever an object of that particular class is created. So a constructor can be declared within a class with the same class name, and it doesn't have any type. Let's say void, int, or string. It doesn't have any kind of name, type. The name should be the same as the class name, student, and you start with this class name, then parenthesis, then open and closed curly brackets. That is how you create a constructor, and a constructor gets called every time an object is created. For example, when we create student1 is we said student1 is equal to new student. What this parenthesis means is basically this constructor new student. This thing actually means it is calling this constructor. So I think you might have guessed it by now what we're going to do. Since the constructor is getting called every time we create an object, why not do something that allows us to assign these values of variables differently for every single object? Okay, let's just clarify that a bit. So whenever we create an object, we want all these values, name, age, institute, department, we want these values to be different for every single object. So why not just do something inside of this constructor that will allow us to have different values of these variables for different objects. So what we can do is we can take arguments. For example, we can take a name, let's say string name int. I am guessing that all of you probably know how functions work, how methods work. So if you don't, then this might be a little bit confusing, but stick with me, I think you will get it right. So int age, and then string institute, and string department. So now what we can do is we can say this dot name is equal to name. And what does this mean? This basically means the class itself, right? The class itself, not an object, but the class itself. This means the class student. This dot name means the variable name of class student, right? So this dot name, this is actually true for all the objects. Basically this simply means the class. This dot name means the string name inside the student class. This dot age means the age we're using here, not the age here. Listen, you can see two names here, two name variables here. This is name, this is also name, but this name is basically this name. Okay, let me just put that in lowercase. So this name is basically this name that we're going to pass in the parenthesis. But this name here, this dot name, this name is basically the, okay, sorry about that. This name is basically the variable that we've declared inside of student class, right? So this dot name is this name, but name is the name inside this parenthesis. This dot age is equal to age. This dot institute is equal to institute, and this dot, sorry, this dot institute, and this dot department is equal to department. And now since we have passed arguments here, we have to do that similar things here, otherwise you will get an error. It says the constructor student is unidentified, the value of the local variable student1 is not used. The first multiple markers at this line, the constructor student is undefined. What that means is a constructor which has no arguments is undefined. So you can have another constructor with no arguments at all, and now it's showing no error because this identifies this argument, this constructor. But what if there were no constructors, and the only constructor you have is this student constructor with 4 different arguments? So then you will run into an error, and to get rid of that issue, what you need to do is you need to pass in these 4 values in the exact same order. So first of all, you'll need a string. Let's name, let's say my name as the first student, and then age, an integer, then institute, Buet, and then the department. Now you get no error. And let's say for student 2 we create someone else. Let's say I don't know, maybe some let's just use my second name, my last name rather, and let's say he is 20 years old and he studies at University of Dhaka or DU, and his subject is CSC, right? So now we've created 2 different students. Now if we print student2 dot name, you can see Nila, right? And if you print student1 dot name, you can see auritro, student1 dot institute, student1 dot institute is poet, and student2 dot institute is du. So you can use this dot to access any variable, and here's how you can use constructors, right? So you can pass in some arguments, and you can pass in the same values as the arguments when you're creating an object. You can have multiple students here. You can create student 3, 4, whatever, how many objects you like, and they all can have different values, right? So that was the basics of how to create a class and how to use objects, and how what is a constructor and how to create a constructor. Maybe in the next video we can look at static variables, static methods, maybe super keyword. No, that's a little advanced topic. That's gonna be discussed when we study inheritance. And yeah, that's it for today. Have a good day, everyone. um, See you in the next video. Bye bye.